This girl never went to school in her life, because of her father, a retired military doctor, diagnosing her heart abnormality, so she could only stay at home and take lessons with her mother. In fact, Dad only gets close to her during the monthly checkup. The girl is frightened by the rare intimacy every time, so the rapid heartbeat is misjudged. Amelie is lonely. Live in your own world. Goldfish is her only friend. It suffers from depression. Mom let it go, and gave Amelie a second-hand point-and-shoot camera to comfort her. Amelie is very happy. Shoot everywhere. Neighbors bullied her. He said her filming would cause a traffic accident. Amelie believed. When she came home and saw various disasters on TV, she blamed herself. Soon she found out that the neighbors were teasing her. She climbed on the roof of a neighbor's home while he was watching a football game. When the game is at its best, sudden. This year, Amelie's mother passed away unexpectedly. The indifferent father became more and more autistic, fanatical to build a tomb for his wife all day. Amelie was alone in the house. The wonderful outside has nothing to do with her. Day to day, year after year, she has grown up. Adult Amelie leaves home. She went to work in a cafe in Montmartre. She thought she would be alone forever. Until August 30th, 1997, Princess Diana died. Amelie looked at the TV in shock. The bottle cap slipped from her hand. Amelie took the tile away. Iron boxes hidden for years were found. This is the treasure that a little boy saved 40 years ago. That night, she decided to return the iron box to the owner. If the master rejoices in this, then she actively helps others. If the master is indifferent, let it go. Tossing and turning several times, Amelie knew the boy's name was Bridotto. She went through the phone book to find all the people in town by this name. Find it one by one, but either a young man or a woman. Just when she returned to the apartment in disappointment, an old painter downstairs stopped her. Says Bridotto. It turns out that Amelie has been remembering the wrong name. The old painter is called the Glass Man, due to congenital disease. His bones are brittle as glass. The furniture in the house is wrapped in soft cloth. For 20 years, the old painter paints the same picture every year. This year, he was stumped by a teenage girl with a water glass. Amelie's appearance gave him inspiration. He gave Amelie the note with Bridotto's address. Every Tuesday morning, Bridotto will go out shopping, but can he go this time? Because of opening the tin box, Bridotto looks like he has returned to his childhood. The years are so wonderful. When I was young, I wanted to grow up. Time is so slow. Wake up one day, suddenly 50 years old. Bridotto has a daughter. Years of Cold War, but now he wants to reconcile. Amelie stood behind the man. Listen to the exclamation. Now, she finds meaning in life. On the street, she met a blind man. She dragged him away. Introduce him as you go.
On descend, et hop, c'est parti. Là, on croise la veuve du tambour de la fanfare. Elle porte la parole de son mari depuis qu'il est mort. Tiens, l'enseigne de la boucherie Chevaline a perdu une oreille. Ce rire, c'est celui du mari de la fleuriste. Il a des petites rides de malice au coin des yeux, mais passe devant la charcuterie. 79 le jambon à l'os, 45 le travers de Michel. Chez le boucher, il y a un bébé qui regarde un chien qui regarde les poulets rôtis.
Amelie wants to do more than that. She found that the owner of the grocery store was always insulting the foolish clerk. She wanted to teach him a lesson. The girl sneaked into the neighbor's house. She picked up the foot cream in the bathroom and looked at it, replaced it with toothpaste, then remodeled the bathroom door, replaced the front and rear handles. There is wine on the table. She put a few handfuls of salt in it, shake twice. At last she entered the bedroom. Set your neighbor's alarm clock forward a few hours. The next morning, the grocer's alarm clock rings. He got up and walked to the toilet. But the boss didn't wake up. The head hummed and squeezed the toothpaste to wash. Then, in the middle of the night, the boss came to the door of the store. But the streets are empty like a ghost movie. He came home to drink. As a result, it all came out in one mouthful. The boss thought about it. Dial the mother's shortcut key, the other end of the phone.
Urgence psychiatrique, j'écoute.
It turns out that Amelie also did tricks on his phone. Substitute the one-touch dial number. The boss is blind. Began to doubt life. He also stopped abusing employees. The second person Amelie wants to help is the woman who lives downstairs. 40 years ago, a woman's husband abandoned her. Since then, she has been complaining, living on the letters her former husband wrote to her. Amelie came along with a stack of letters. She cut different content from different letters. Then paste these sentences on a piece of paper. Make them old and dry. Make an apology letter with all your heart and soul. and pretended to be a lost parcel on the plane. The postman gave it to the woman downstairs. After the woman saw, knowing that her husband still loves her, very happy, rekindled hope for life. Amelie helped the two people in the cafe as a matchmaker. Go to talk to the old painter every day. She has been worried about the old father at home. She came home overnight trying to persuade her father. When you get home, she has a better idea. She pried off her father's dwarf. When she was going back, the station is closed. She could only sleep in the photo booth for one night. Wake up the next day. She found a man lying on the ground, using a knife to scrape out other people's shredded photos. Looking at each other, Amelie was heartbroken. Suddenly the man jumped up and rushed out. Amelie followed closely behind him. A man is chasing another man, running wild. The bag from the car was thrown off by him. When Amelie picked it up, she found a photo album inside. They are all torn up stickers by others. One of the men has the most. There are a full 9. She realized that the man is the same as him.
Vous savez, la chance, c'est comme le Tour de France. On l'attend longtemps, puis ça passe vite. Alors quand le moment vient, il faut sauter la barrière, sans hésiter.
The man's name is Nino. Announcement of finding objects was posted at the station. A normal girl would call and send it back, but she doesn't. She finds where Nino works. Put a note in his car. Ask him to meet. This man is waiting. The woman behind suddenly asked him to answer the phone. The person on the other end of the phone is the girl he was waiting for, but she told him to follow the arrow. The man followed the arrow all the way up the hill. At the end is a statue. The man looked bewildered. Sudden.
Quand le doigt montre le ciel, l'imbécile regarde le doigt.
Man looks down through binoculars. Saw a heavily armed girl standing beside his car. Stuffed the album in the bag. Nino cried out, running down the mountain like the wind. But it's too late. The girl has left. Then the phone booth rang again. Nino asked who the other party was. The other party only let him read 51 pages. Open the album. Nino saw several different pictures. Make up a sentence. Do you want to see me? Watching Nino leave here, Amelie took off her glasses. With a sly smile, Nino didn't let her down. Put up a few posters at the station to spread the message. Amelie found out and walked into the photo booth. Tear it up after taking a picture. This time home, father told Amelie a strange thing. His dwarf is gone, but he received a postcard from the dwarf. He has traveled across 5 continents. Amelie snickered. In fact, she handed the dwarf to the stewardess Shook of the cafe. Let her run with the dwarf and take a picture and send it back. She hopes to give her father a passion for life. At the same time, Nino lay down on the ground again and found the torn photos of Amelie. Little by little he did it. Recognized the words above. Amelie said she would be at the cafe after 4 o'clock. This day, Amelie was restless. Always look at the door. It's 4 o'clock. Nino hasn't come yet. In her little brain, she came up with many possibilities. Even thought of Nino going to the Soviet Union to steal missiles. Finally, Nino appeared. But Amelie still didn't come forward. Just look at him from behind. Nino turned his head. See her. He took out the assembled photos and compared them carefully.
Si, c'est vous ça.
Amelie still didn't dare to go out. She wrote another note. She asked a colleague to give it to Nino. But Nino didn't see the information until the next day. He went back to the station photo booth. This time, he saw the man from before. It turns out that the reason why men take so many pictures, it's because he's a maintenance guy testing. Unravel the confusion. Nino is happy. Amelie saw him from a distance. Walked towards him, but at this moment, someone passing by. Wait for the trailer to leave. There was no one in the photo booth. When Amelie returns to the cafe, only then did she know that Nino went out with the colleague who handed him the note. Amelie came home lost. She was busy at the stove. In his mind, Nino bought her yeast powder, then quietly went upstairs, toggled the curtain behind the kitchen. At this time, the curtains really rattled. Amelie turned around. She finally couldn't hold back her tears for a love that ends before it begins. Sudden, doorbell rang. Nino called her name from outside the door. It turned out that my colleague took Nino out. Just wanted to help Amelie check. Amelie didn't open the door. Nino wrote a note saying he would come later. Amelie hides behind the window and watches Nino run out of the apartment. Then the phone rang. It's the old painter downstairs. He asked someone to send a videotape.
Si vous laissez passer cette chance, alors avec le temps, c'est votre cœur qui va devenir aussi cassant que mon squelette. Alors, allez-y, nom d'un chien.
Amelie rushes out. The moment you open the door, she saw Nino waiting. The two hugged tightly. At the same time, father saw the dwarf returning from the trip. He couldn't bear it any longer. Pack your luggage and go out. Everything is slowly getting better.